My name was on the invitation. But my seat wasn't even close to the family. They made me sit in the last row behind the buffet near the kitchen door. Like I was just someone they had to tolerate. But I didn't leave. As deep down I had a feeling. Someone else at that wedding knew the truth. And when he finally spoke, he didn't just ruin the ceremony. He ended every lie they built on. My name is Madison. And this is how my older sister tried to erase me from her life. But the man she was about to marry destroyed her perfect day for me. Ava has always been the center of attention. Since we were kids, everything, birthdays, holidays, even school projects, somehow became about her. And I got used to it. The second born. The quiet one. The backup. She won prom queen without trying. I got grounded for missing curfew even when it wasn't my fault. She'd lie. I'd cover. She'd cry. I'd comfort. She'd shine. I'd stay small. But nothing prepared me for how far she'd go to push me out of her big day. When Ava got engaged, she didn't even tell me. I found out through our mom, who casually dropped it during a phone call. Oh, did Ava tell you? She's getting married in May. No, she hadn't. Not a text. Not a picture of the ring. Nothing. Weeks later, a wedding invitation arrived. Plain envelope. No note. My name was spelled wrong. It didn't say +1. It didn't say bridesmaid. It just said, Madison Taylor, seat 48B. I almost threw it out. But something about the date felt important. I couldn't explain why. Maybe I wanted to believe she'd come around. Maybe part of me still wanted a sister. So I RSVP'd yes. The wedding was at an outdoor vineyard 2 hours away. Beautiful. Expensive. The kind of place where everything is white, polished, and filtered for Instagram. When I arrived, the usher looked confused. Name. Madison Taylor, I said softly. He flipped through a list, then nodded and pointed toward the very back. That's row K behind the service table. I blinked. Sorry? That's where the guests from the family side are. He glanced down. You're on the list. Just not in the family section. I looked around. My uncle, cousins, and even Ava's college roommate were up front. I was in the shadows. I walked to the back and sat down near the heaters and folding chairs. No one greeted me. No one smiled. Not even our parents. I waved at my mom when she glanced my way. She just nodded and turned back to the front. I suddenly felt 12 again. Invisible. Unwanted. Forgettable. I pulled my coat tighter and watched guests take their seats. Then I saw Ava. She walked down the aisle like a movie star. Veil fluttering. Gown flawless. Smile fixed and glowing like a toothpaste commercial. I'll admit it, she looked beautiful. But I couldn't help noticing something else. She didn't glance back at me. Not even once. Not even when the officiant welcomed all the beloved friends and family of Ava and Ryan. I sat there, stomach tight, cheeks burning. This wasn't a wedding. This was a performance. And I was the one thing that didn't fit. The officiant began the vows. Ava went first, gushing about how Ryan made her feel chosen, seen, and adored. I nearly laughed out loud. Because for the past 3 months, she hadn't even replied to a single one of my texts. But then something happened. Ryan didn't take her hand like he was supposed to. He stepped forward and looked at me. Full eye contact. In front of everyone. Before I say anything to Ava, he said, his voice shaking slightly, there's something I need to say to Madison. You could hear the gasps. Ava's eyes widened. Ryan, what are you doing? But he didn't look away. The crowd turned to me. Suddenly I wasn't invisible. I was the spotlight. I sat frozen. Heart thudding. Mouth dry. And then he said the one thing that would break Ava's entire world apart. Ryan took a breath. The entire vineyard waited. I want to talk about truth, he began. Because I think before you commit your life to someone, you deserve to know who they really are. Ava's face turned from glowing bride to panicked statue in seconds. Her smile vanished. Her hands clenched the bouquet tighter. She whispered something through her teeth, but Ryan didn't even glance at her. He was looking at me. Maddie, he said again, voice steady. You've been nothing but kind to me. Supportive. And honest. Even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Now people were shifting in their seats. Turning their heads. Looking between Ava and me, confused. I wanted to shrink into my chair. I didn't want to be part of this. But I couldn't move. Ryan continued. I found out 2 weeks ago what Ava did to you. About the scholarship. About the years of exclusion. About how you weren't even supposed to be here today. Ava hissed. Ryan, stop it. Right now. But he didn't. He turned to the crowd. I'm not saying this to embarrass anyone. I'm saying this because I almost married someone who lied. Not just to me, but to the one person who always wanted her love. Gasps. Actual gasps from guests in the middle rows. Did you know, he said, now looking at Ava's parents, that Ava used Maddie's college fund to buy her first car? Told Maddie mom had canceled the savings, then bragged about the car for months. Her dad looked stunned. Her mom blinked rapidly, shaking her head in denial. Did you know she told her friends Maddie wasn't wedding material, and seated her by the buffet to make sure she didn't ruin the pictures? More gasps. A woman in the second row put her hand to her mouth. I didn't know either, Ryan said, until Maddie sent me a letter. Not to destroy us but to give me a choice. He looked at me again. I didn't believe her at first, but I did my homework. I asked people. I read old messages. He paused. And now I'm making my choice. Ava stepped forward, her voice shaking. Ryan, this is ridiculous. It's her word against mine. Ryan turned to her slowly. You told me Maddie dropped out of college because she couldn't handle the pressure. Ava froze. But the truth is, you stole her funding, lied to the family, and then made her feel like she failed. I was young. Ava shouted. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 19. You were cruel, Ryan cut in. And it didn't stop there. She opened her mouth, but he held up the RSVP envelope. You didn't invite her with love. You assigned her a seat like she was baggage. Your own sister. People were no longer whispering. They were openly staring. Phones were out. Someone in the back was filming. You can blame the dress, the weather, the pressure, Ryan said, stepping back from the altar. But you can't hide the truth. And then he took off the ring. I can't marry someone who treats family like trash just to protect her spotlight. Ava's mouth dropped open. You're not serious. I am. She tried to grab his hand. Ryan, please. We can talk after the ceremony. But he shook his head. No more pretending. He turned to the officiant. I won't be saying any vows today. And just like that, he walked off the platform. People stood up, completely stunned. Ava just stood there, white dress glowing under the canopy, frozen like someone had unplugged her world. Then she turned toward me. You did this. I didn't respond, because I didn't have to. People were watching, listening. No one rushed to comfort her. No one clapped. No one took her side. She stormed down the aisle, shoving the maid of honor aside and disappearing behind the vineyard doors. A few guests got up and left. Others gathered around her parents, whispering. The music stopped. I remained seated in the back row where she had put me on purpose. And yet, in the end, all eyes were on me. Later that evening, I found Ryan near the parking lot, sitting on the back of his car, tie loosened. He looked up. Hey. I said nothing. He held up the letter I'd written. I should have seen it earlier. I wasn't trying to ruin your wedding, I said softly. I know, he replied. You saved me from a life of lies. I nodded, then walked away. Because this wasn't about getting him, or proving something. This was about finally being seen without shouting, without begging. This was revenge served cold, quiet, and irreversible. She made me sit at the back of her wedding. But in the end, I was the only one who left with dignity. Studio microphone. If this story hit home, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We post new stories of pain, justice, and the sweet silence of revenge. What would you have done if it were you? Share below.